Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at what if the last human light. And the question is, if every human suddenly disappeared, how long would it take for the last human light to disappear? Well, that's an interesting question. Let's look at it. First of all, it wouldn't take that long, actually, for most lights to disappear because there's no people to run the fuel stations that are creating electricities for us, and even a lot of different things. The power grids would just fail, so it wouldn't take that long. He makes a funny joke here about Skynet. If you've ever watched the movie Terminator, Skynet is the AI that ends up trying to destroy humanity, and that AI is called Skynet. So even though Skynet had all this power, there were no humans to keep the energy going, and Skynet would die. Kind of the joke there. It's pretty funny. He says, let's look at the different kind of ways that we generate power. First way is by diesel generators. Those would be the first to stop. And that would take like weeks, days, maybe a few months. And those generators using fuel would stop powering things. So those lights would die pretty quickly. Some other technologies like geothermal plants using the heat from the earth, those would last longer. But the pieces inside there would slowly start to get old and stop. So those would last several years, I think. Wind turbines, okay, on the hill. Those were made to last a long time. I think they gave an example of one lasting like 60 years. So that would last quite a long time of human light going on in those things. Then we also have hydroelectric dams, which is like river power. And those would last a long time too, maybe 100 years of just water going through and it creating electricity. But even those will eventually fail. Okay, well, what else do we have? How about batteries? Okay, well, batteries would last a while, but they would only last like 10 years maybe. So if you had a light connected to a battery, maybe it would last 10 years. So far, maybe the longest would be a nuclear reactor. And a nuclear reactor would power forever! Except nuclear reactors were created so that way, if an external power source stopped, the nuclear reactor would also stop. And it would kind of use its safety systems to shut down. Really funny story here about SCRAM, SCRAM. And I can't remember what the S and the C, I think safety, something, rod, axeman. Meaning the first person to lower a rod into like a nuclear reactor was doing it with a rope. And if something went bad or wrong, there was a guy with an axe to cut the rope and make the rod drop. The next best thing that would probably have a little light are space probes. And floating around the Earth or shooting off into outer space are these probes. And they have solar power. And they were made to last for a long, long time. So those probes would probably last for hundreds of years. Even the space rover Perseverance would last for a long time. Except Perseverance doesn't have a light on it, so it wouldn't really count. The next one would be solar power. Whoa, okay, solar power, solar panels, they will last for a long, long time. Maybe hundreds and hundreds of years, as long as there is sunlight, and if they had little lights on them. Maybe the best bet, and this would last for maybe ever, is the Cherenkov radiation. Cherenkov radiation. Not sure. But that is a kind of radiation that glows. And they would use it to write things. And even though it would make things glow like in your watch, it still wasn't enough radiation to maybe hurt your body. And so that radiation could last for almost hundreds of thousands of years, I think. That leaves us with vocabulary, which is number 1, premise. Premise is a basic idea that is the foundation of another thought. Okay? So we all operate under the premise that gravity is real. If we jump, we'll fall back down. That's an example. Cascade is something hitting another and another and another to cause a greater reaction. Size up is to look at something and determine how big or how dangerous something is, just by looking at it. Succumb means to be overcome with, overwhelmed with, to yield to give up, succumb. That leaves us with our discussion question is, after the last human light disappears, and I think about these Cherenkov lights, or even maybe these space probes blinking, what will discover those lights hundreds of years after all of humanity is gone? And of course, please make your own discussion question. That is all the time that we have for today. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.